Yes, thank you. And I'd just like to welcome you all and thank you for coming to support us. We really appreciate it. We're a very hardworking party.
And we appreciate you.
Yes,
Yes, we do.
very dedicated, and we, above all else, we really enjoy being together and we have a really good time. That's one of the things we like to do. So again, welcome, and thank you for coming. So our first speaker will be Rose.
Moment of silence.
Oh, Leonard.
Oh,
He was gonna.
I was supposed to speak a few words about an old Dem that died recently. Callie Barr, Ellis Township down near Afton. Oh, okay. Hold my beer. 30 minutes is all I'm allowed.
One.
I'm notorious for speaking too long.
And you let him go
I'll
first?
Try to make it, I'll really try to make it quick. Kathy was a good Dem. She ran against Bob Bollinger down in District 7 twice and lost. But I went to some of her events, and I'll never forget once, she stated her philosophy as a politician. She said, I want to distinguish between what we need, what we want, and nice things. And that is true. That is really true. Politically, you don't have full power of the budget to everything you might want. So you have to do what you need. But I appreciate what Callie Barr did. It's hard to get people to run for county commission as a Democrat. And many of you have been talked into it by past chairs and current chairs. And we all appreciate those efforts. One of these days, we'll take over the Cheboygan Board of Commissioners and do some good things for Cheboygan County. But I just wanted to remember Callie Barr for giving it a good effort and running against an incumbent that had been, there for 20 years. That's hard to do, as Cindy Kress will tell us about. I think she's run about 8 times against John Wallace. I'm done. I got off in tangent.
30 minutes.
Rosie. And I knew it. Hello, welcome. I'm here dressed as Rosie the Riveter to introduce our new temporary exhibit here at the History Center about local Cheboygan County Rosie the Riveters. And just to tell you a little bit about what we have going on, for those of you that were at our fundraiser on the Ice Cutter Mackinac Maritime Museum a year or two ago, we have a museum space there because that ship was built in the Toledo shipyards in the 40s. So it was women that actually built that ship. So there's an exhibit there to honor the women that built and the women that served. So if you have an opportunity, please go there. We have this. We have a Rosie the Riveter Memorial Rose Garden at the county building, which is, oh my gosh, it's just about to bloom and they are so fabulous. So the rose bushes there are dedicated to Rosies in the area with a little plaque. We have a metal cutout of Rosie the Riveter on the Children's Trail. If you haven't been there, check that out. We have lots going on. So anyway, we got all that, and now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for tonight. Wow, I don't know her yet, but Callie was a 2004 graduate of Cheboygan High School. She was the valedictorian. She is an attorney, and she's running to unseat Jack Bergman. what else can you say? This is all good stuff. So, I would like to, turn over the microphone and introduce, Callie. We're so glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me come here today to be with you all. As a congressional candidate, you know that all the work that you do is built off of what you do, what you have done, and what you're going to do. And so I'm so appreciative to everyone for the work you do day in and day out. For me, I grew up in Traverse City and Cheboygan. Met my husband, Matthew. He's over here with the name tag, the husband.
I had a mohawk because I was a chief.
So met him in high school.
That's a true Cheboyganite.
And even Matt, his family, our family goes back generations in this area. And I brought my grandma here today, right over here.
Yeah, Grandma.
My grandma actually worked at the History Center here for years. And would give tours. And my cousin Jesse and I would go and hide sometimes in the jail and lock each other in. And always they used to have a bridesmaid's dress they used to have we'd always stand next to it and wonder how people were so small,
Oh, they still wonder that.
They're right. So Matt and I met in high school, and he, like I said, our families both go way back, and actually he's even got relatives that were stationed on Mackinac Island in the 1800s. Wow. So, like many of us here, after consulting our family trees and realizing we were not related, we started dating. And on September 11th, Matt called the Marine Corps recruiter that day. He wanted to serve his country. And that was a decision that would take us, all over the country. I got my teaching degree as we were moving all over. I'm from Central Michigan University. Go Chips, got her Chips. Like my Aunt Jeannie, who's over here, also got her degree from Central. And Matt, he fought in Iraq and fought in Afghanistan, and he came back with, at the time, an undiagnosed traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress, and we talk about that a lot to just help raise awareness on, mental health and getting treatment. And that became an advocacy that was very important to me. And so I worked for Blue Star Families and the Rosalind Carter Institute for Caregiving when we were stationed in Quantico, Virginia. And would go to Capitol Hill and meet with congressmen and senators and ask them to please care about our community. And there were times when we had favorable receptions, and there were times when they would say, well, thank you, sweetheart, but your chair's like down the hall. And it was that experience that I realized I really needed the tools to be a better advocate. And so I decided to go to law school. So as Matt was getting out of the military, and I had a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, decided to do that. And I laugh because I look back, I remember going to class and opening up my notebook with all my careful notes and whole thing being covered in unicorn stickers. Wondering, how am I gonna get through the day? But I did. I graduated in 2019 from the University of Michigan. I worked several years. Yeah, go blue. Go blue. I see a shirt back there, big house, that's right. Wow. And someone who's confused over there too. Worked several years as a litigation attorney, and we had January 6th in this country, and for many of us I think that was shocking and it was horrifying. And for Matt and I, it was deeply, deeply personal. And Jack Bergman, the representative in this area, he runs very heavily on a military platform. And he has used that to undermine our democracy. That's unconscionable. And, I can tell you for Matt and I, we lived for years believing in something so much bigger than ourselves, which was this country and it was our democracy. And, I can tell you the story. We had a very close friend of ours who was killed in Iraq, and his 11-year-old son hours after learning of his father's death, got a piece of paper and wrote on it, "Be a leader, not a follower." And he taped it on his bedroom door. And to us, that's a mandate today, that we need to stand up and we need to keep doing the work that we're doing for this country and for each other. And it matters. 2024 is not just a congressional race, it's a presidential race, it's a Senate race. We have a former president who's been indicted.
Twice.
Again.
Again, thank you. So our work matters. Our work truly here, it matters. And turning out the vote matters. In this area, in District 1, we know for 2 decades this area was represented by Bart Stupak. We know it went blue for Obama in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
These people are still here. And when we look at the voter profile, we have about 40% that is solid Republican. Probably not going to change minds there. We've got 38% Dem and about a 22% that's independent, an independent vote.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what we're looking at it when we look at talking about an election here that puts a Democrat in that seat. And so the question is, how do we do that, right? And a lot of that's outreach. And it's letting folks know that we're here and it's getting the vote out, because we know that Republicans have come out in greater numbers to vote. And so we can't be defeatist. We got to get out and we got to get the vote out. And a lot of that's dependent on resources. We have an older voting population, and so getting on TV is very, very important. Radio, we all know we drive. We drive a lot everywhere we go, and targeted mailing. So that's important. In our race, so far, we've been really excited about the momentum. We launched in April. So far, we've had a lot of excitement for our race. We've been able to raise over $100,000 so far, which is great.
Nice.
We have candidates from downstate asking, "How are you doing this?" I said, "'Cause we're ready for it." We've seen in Traverse City and Marquette, female candidates who've run there, who flipped those seats. That's exciting. Prop 3 did well up here, more than most people ever expected. That's really exciting, and so it's time, and we have a congressperson up here who doesn't show up. And that's a message that resonates across.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, and I think he's aware of us, because we've heard him now on the radio in the past couple weeks, and he just sent a postcard.
Yeah.
Which I tell people, you send postcards when you're on vacation. Maybe you should just show up and do a town hall. So yeah, in our race too, we were just endorsed a couple weeks ago by New Politics. We're on their website. You can check that out. They are an organization, they're bipartisan, that supports candidates with a history of service who want to support democracy. Yay, great. So that's great. So we have momentum there. And the other thing is too, in areas that we've looked at, we've been able to flip, it's areas where you have great contrast between the incumbent and the challenger. We bring that. I'm a mom, I care very much about the future of my kids. I'm a woman. We've seen success with that throughout the state. That's important right now. And I'm also an attorney, so I'm really not afraid to tell Bergman the areas that the votes that he's made and how they're not good for our folks here. And right now we've talked a lot about democracy, but of course a priority too of our campaign is talking a lot about our working class and our economy. We're at the greatest income inequality right now since the 1920s. We have got people.
Wait, what?
Income inequality since the 1920s.
Okay.
Yep. We've got right now people taking private trips into outer space while we have kids who can't eat over the summer, right? That's a problem. And that's felt deeply by people in our community, regardless of party, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's those messages that really resonate. We talk about the kitchen table issues that are important, like healthcare, like jobs and training, fair taxation, social security nets, like Medicare and Social Security, especially with our population. These are lifelines. And so that's really a focus of our campaign. And, you know, I hope that you'll join us. We've got, sign up if you want to volunteer. If you can contribute to the cause, that helps. And I will be here to answer any questions. And I also brought my notebook because there are many things that all of you know and your expertise that I need to know. And so I always ask for you to please share, because local issues are really important and they're important for me to know, you know, as we go out in our community and talk about what matters to people. So we're excited and be excited, because we're gonna do great things here in the first, and what we do here matters. And it matters not just for this race, but for our presidential race, for our Senate race, all across the state. And that's what we tell people downstate. Right now, a vote out of Alpena or Cheboygan and someone coming out is just as good as someone in Ann Arbor, right? So we're gonna do great things up here.
Callie,
Yeah.
do you want to take questions?
I can, sure, absolutely.
Anybody have questions?
What moved you to really do this? I mean, you kind of told us a little bit, but what's important to you?
It truly, honestly, it very much was January 6th, and it was Bergman. Honestly, I mean, we had the Confederate flag in our nation's capital. You know, we've had brothers and sisters that we've buried for this country, and he didn't want to investigate that, right? You can't do that. I mean, you know, we're here right now in front of the History Center, and we look at our democracy. It has never been despite our differences that we've been great. It's been because of them, right? We are the bipartisan problem-solving caucus. Why isn't he a part of that, right? Why isn't he part of making solution and advancement in the areas that we can? And that's so important right now. We are at a moment of American history. We're at an inflection point, and what we do from here on out matters. You know, and when we look at where we're going with technology and national security, I mean, right now we have politicians that want to be celebrities, but not legislators. Right? And we need to be serious about this. It's not a game. These are people's lives, you know? And just the other day with the debt ceiling, you know, Representative Bergman said, well, we don't have to adequately fund the VA. Yes, we do. Yes, we do, you know? I
It's the
mean,
most important thing.
we depend on that. So many folks depend on that care. And in our district, you know, we've got a large population of veterans and families who depend on that. He wanted to privatize Medicare and Social Security. We're not gonna do that. You know, and so it's lack of voice here. And Matt and I felt very strongly we can match up to Bergman in ways that other candidates can't. We're from here, we have a long history here, this is our home. This is our home, and no one's gonna fight for their home like someone who, like us, you know? Like, we're gonna fight for this. So, we're passionate about it. So,
Thank you.
long-winded answer to your
No,
question.
that's important.
It's quite true, excuse me, it's quite true that Bergman is not a friend of his Michigan. He's good at riding the coattails of others' efforts. He'll vote something down, and then when it does get passed, he'll show up for the ribbon cutting and say, isn't this great, I know,
Sue.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I've not seen anybody push back against him and say, well, where were you, Jack, when it was time to vote for this? So we need people to step up and do more of that and start calling these people out. On another larger national scale, you got all these people that are supporting Trump. You know, he's got all this stuff going against him right now, and people are like, well, I'm with Trump. Well, did you read the indictment? Oh, no, I haven't read it yet, but I'm with Trump. It's like, what kind of stupid is that?
Right.
So how do we go about gathering the right people together to communicate how wrong this is and turn it into a right?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think for the Jack Bergman, for instance, and like the Sulaks is a great example of that.
Very good.
You know, he thanked Debbie Stavinoff for her work on it, but he voted against it. You know, a lot of that is getting, you have to get out on TV, on the radio, you know, you have to be out there talking. And, you know, we were on the radio just a couple weeks ago with Mike Grisdale. So that was great. We've been playing that, trying to just get earned media that way. But really it's having the resources. You gotta be able to get on TV and let people know. But I also know too, and Joanne, you know, she was very involved with the postcards and letting people know about, you know, what the Democratic Party has done and just letting people know. I think often, you know, I mean, I think we can all remember when those signs that said, keep your government hands out of my Medicare. That people understand what they benefit from and where that comes from. It's really important. And I think you were sending those out, is that right?
We have another 1,500 we're sending out on Monday.
Yeah, so that's
But
great.
I do have to give the credit to Nancy here.
Nancy,
It was her
there we
idea.
go.
Well,
It was.
it was a committee effort, I will say.
Well,
But I had the original idea.
Do you think you'd have an opportunity to, do you think you'd have an
Oh,
opportunity?
sorry.
You seem to be awfully well spoken. Have you thought about challenging Urban to a
debate. Absolutely. I mean, I dream about that. I don't think he'll do it for a number of reasons. I think as an incumbent, probably his best strategy is to never say my name ever. But I can tell you, you know, as an attorney, when you get into something, you look at kind of what's the theory of the case. And here the theory of the case is Jack doesn't show up. He doesn't show up for you, he doesn't show up for me, he's certainly not gonna show up for a debate. So if he doesn't show up, guess what? He's just proven me right. And if he does show up, great. But I agree, yeah, he hasn't in the last several years.
I just texted him to let him know that you're at least showing up.
Oh, good. Thank you.
How are you a presence on social media?
Social media, yeah, so here, Facebook is really kind of the medium most people use is Facebook, so absolutely. Yep, and we did, you know, when we launched our campaign, we did a video. Some of you may have seen it, it's still up on our website, you can watch it. That was really successful, a lot of folks watched it. We had a lot of outreach from the Cheboygan area in particular, a lot of, you know, people who knew us in high school, knew our parents, knew my grandma, who watched it and said, oh, well, you know, we're on board, because we know you. So that was really great. People just see you as people before rejecting, you know, just seeing a party line. That's very important. And so that was very intentional that we came out with just a video first.
Is that on Facebook?
It is. It's on Facebook, and we put it on every platform.
Okay, so we can share it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, and please do.
Okay.
Yes, please do. Yes, share. That was kind of funny to me, you know, they're like, walk down the street with your kids and laugh and smile. We're like, stop shoving each other into snowbanks. We gotta look good right now.
Well, you had said when I was talking to you before about the importance of being on TV.
Yes.
And did you say that Berlin was already scheduling TV spots, or?
It's a great question. What we looked at, so you can go into the past and you can look at buying history. So you can see, like, basically patterns of when they bought commercials, when they bought air, all of it.
Yeah.
So we're just looking at that to kind of get a gauge, and usually it's like within 3 months of the election. He hasn't really done much though in the last, you know, several cycles. So that's it, right? I mean, if we're gonna make them spend money up here, which is just good for the whole state, because that's less money they can spend in other places, right? We've got a lot of contested races, very, very close contested races too.
Do you think you will get support from the state Dems?
So the state Democratic Party supports, I mean, they can support in other types of ways, but usually you're talking to the National Democratic Party, the DCC, you know, DCCC, or the D-Trip if you're cool. So we've been talking to them, you know, of course they're looking at a national map, and so it's more like a relationship. You let them know where you're at, what your fundraising is, how hard you're working. So we've been talking back and forth, and, you know, it's Emily's list as well. You just kind of keep that conversation going. Yep. They said we were raising eyebrows.
That's good.
So that's good. Yeah.
Question?
Yeah.
How are you gonna differentiate yourself from the other candidate that is running for the same position? Because he ran before and came here several times, and we thought he was a good candidate. And I don't know why he did not do better. How are you gonna do better?
Right, so one thing I can say right away is that, you know, you have to have the resources to be able to get your message out. That campaign last cycle raised about 500,000 total. That's what our state rep race in Traverse City did alone. And so it's just not enough to be able to have the outreach. And in the first quarter filing of this race was still 10 grand in debt from last time. So that's one metric. The other thing is too, just as a candidate, you know, I was born and raised here, and I have family that goes way back, and it matters in these areas. You know, those relationships matter, and, you know, as a military spouse, the military connection, you know, we connect with a lot of people in this area because there's a large military community, and people who've been touched by that, you know, wives, caregivers, and Bergman is a military officer, and our story is very much an enlisted story, which is, you know, military is a class system, so very working class, and the policies that, you know, that he and others like him sometimes have implemented have not been good for our community. And so I think that's a different story that he's not had to answer for. And he's exactly the type of person I usually had to advocate when I was trying to get Matt healthcare and services that he needed. And the other thing is too, you know, we've seen success with women candidates. And we have not ever had in this district a woman nominee for either the Republican or Democratic Party, ever. So we gotta change it. It's time to change that. And we know too with polling that, you know, being a mom is a great thing because it helps, it's a bipartisan thing. We all care about our kids and the future of our children. So,
Thank you.
yes. Yes.
No, I just wonder if you have some opportunities to be with Governor Whitmer and Jocelyn and, you know, yes?
Yes, I have. They're
Things
great.
coming up on TV and interviews.
So mostly, I was at the Mackinac Policy Conference. This was last week. Yep.
Good.
So that was wonderful. I was bouncing around everywhere, probably even places I shouldn't have been, but I just went. But it was great, and I let the governor know. As soon as I met her, I said, I'm Callie Barr, running for the 1st district. We're super excited. It's gonna happen. Bye. So, no, it was great. And Secretary Benson as well. So.
Great.
And we're reaching out to, you know, we've talked to campaigns that have come before us. You know, Bart Stupek and Gary McDowell in these races and said, like, what did you do right? What did you do wrong? What would you have done different? I mean, because we want to learn, right, as much as we can on what are some pitfalls to avoid, right? So that's been helpful.
You are the 1st district.
The 1st
Aren't
district.
you the 1st district?
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
It's the largest east of the Mississippi.
Really?
Yeah. I think like Wyoming is bigger. We're half the state. We're truly about half the state. 35 and a half counties.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to formulate a position on line 5 yet?
Yeah, you know, I'm meeting Liz next week. Did you remember? Yeah, so that's great. Yeah, you know, I lean very heavily on Jen Hill. And I don't know if many of you know Jen Hill. She's a representative up in Marquette. She's an MIT graduate, energy expert, and she's fabulous. And so her and I have talked quite a bit about that, and I think there's, you know, no disagreement that this is operating beyond its forecasted life, right? And we have to protect our Great Lakes. I mean, it's our way of life, our economy, it's everything. And what she's looked at too, and I think this is really smart, is we've got who knows, right, 2, 3, 5 years of whatever this permitting is, right? That we really make a focused effort and try and move towards energy that's clean, right? And she said, and this is, heat pumps right now, even in Ukraine that they're using, that can go negative 15 degrees. That's amazing. And so even reducing reliance in the ways that we can on propane can help, right? So we kind of start attacking some of these arguments that, like heating the UP, right? And reducing reliance on propane. I mean, that's gonna be really important. So, yeah, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So, couple of announcements, if it's all right.
Yes.
They are giving tours,
Hold on, sir. Thank you.
Go!
Yes.
Wanted to let you know that we're still, Kay is offering tours of the jail, if anyone is interested in a tour of the jail. And I see that it's what? What time is it?
7:35.
7:39. How about we close the silent auction at 8 p.m.?
How about everybody bid out?
Then you're out of luck, because I know what you're doing.
Encourage people.
Everybody, 8 p.m. The silent auction is closed, so please go bid often, bid high.
I have something else I'd like
Yes.
to say.
The quilt.
The quilt. This
This
beautiful
quilt.
quilt is being auctioned. We have tickets for sale. That will
$5, 5 for 20.
That's right, and you can get them right here from Miss Sue.
And you should all know that this History Center of Cheboygan County is funded completely by donations. Like, you know, the raffle ticket, we paid a little stipend tonight to be here. They receive no county or city funding whatsoever. So they are completely reliant on donations. So please donate often.
Thank you.
Announcement. So Dale, do you wanna? Yeah. One more announcement.
We're going to have an entry in the parade on the 4th of July, and we need volunteers. So we're going to discuss this in detail at the meeting, which is next Wednesday? And so come to that, and like I say, we need volunteers, so think about it.
That's it.